इसमें भी ऐसा ही होगा।
वीडियो
ऐसा क्यों पहले
सर, जैसे वो परमिशन हटा देता है थोड़े टाइम के बाद, ताकि ऐसे कुछ रैंडम रिकॉर्ड ना हो। अब आ गया। एक बार देख लीजिए।
तुम बैठ जाओ, तुम अभी बैठ
सर
जाओ।
एक सेकंड इनको समझा देते
हाँ
हैं।
चलो समझ लो।
स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं होगा।
हाँ तुम अभी बैठ जाओ।
पीपीटी यहाँ है।
उस समय बैक कर देना।
3 फिंगर से आप ऐसे स्लाइड करके पढ़ लीजिएगा। कैमरा ऑन रहेगा तो हाँ, जैसे लाइट गए तो ये आया, ये इसको आपको देखने की जरूरत नहीं, आपको यहाँ से पता चलेगा। लाइट जलती रहेगी कि कैमरा ऑन है। अब बस ऐसे करिएगा और यहाँ आप ये स्क्रीन देख के पढ़िएगा।
तुम बैठ जाओ, अभी बैठ जाओ। ये कहाँ से हो रहा है?
सबको साउंड म्यूट करना पड़ेगा।
आइए बोलो। साउंड का क्या होगा?
Dr. Arjun Kumar, former head, Department of English, Patna University. Dr. Ramhit Chopal, Dr. Vibhash Ranjan, and all faculty members, the research scholars present over here, and the students of MA. A very warm welcome to today's program, the Viva-Voce of Tabassum Praveen, who is registered or is working or has worked under Dr. M. Rahman of Patna. Her topic is, it's actually a very interesting topic, in oblique justice in the representation of Africans in the novels of Nadine Gordimer. So we will start the usual, the specified procedures of Viva-Voce. So first I request Dr. Vibhash Ranjan of Department of English, Patna University, to read the reports of the experts, the 3 experts. Dr. Vibhash Ranjan.
Very good afternoon to all of you. I will be reading out the 3 reports on the research scholar Tabassum Praveen, whose title of the thesis is Injustice in the Representation of Africans in the Novels of Nadine Gordimer. So the first report is by the supervisor, M. Rahman sir, Professor M. Rahman sir, and he has detailed his report as such as: having gone through the Ph.D. thesis of Tabassum Praveen, it is evident that the research is truly a good attempt to point out the issues of identity, race, and culture in the novels of Nadine Gordimer. The approach of the researcher is analytical in all the 6 chapters. The first chapter focuses on the broader history and characteristics of African literature. The second chapter deals with the various political alongside the aspects of history and the different historical events which restructure the different happenings in the society. The third chapter has attempted to deal with the idea how the selves of the native people are acted upon by the white colonial masters. which altogether depict the discursive practices of a society. The fourth chapter vividly portrays the different kinds of struggles associated with political scenario in the South African society. The chapter makes use of the critical arguments by Homi Bhabha pertaining to the aspect of cultural diversity. The fifth chapter attempted in order to deal with the various intricacies of identity of the native African people in the society. The chapter has made use of the arguments by Stephen Kingman regarding the portrayal of the post-colonial society. The concluding chapter focuses on Godimer's presentation of African in her selected novels. It encapsulates the essence of the entire research. Godimer presents the inner conflicts of ideas, equality, identity, and liberation, suggesting that no absolute idea of utopia exists as questions of race and identity are ridden with complexities and the experiences and implications of toppling the radical hierarchy of what then seemed to be a possible future of South Africa. Based on my reading of the thesis, I approve that Tabassum Praveen be awarded with Ph.D. degree in English after her performance in the final Viva-Voce recommendation recommended for the Ph.D. degree. The second report is by Professor A. Khan, Head Department of English, Government DT Postgraduate College, UTI, Durg. In his report, he has told that the thesis entitled Injustice in the Representation of Africans in the Novels of Godimer, submitted by Ms. Tabassum Praveen to Patna University for the award of PhD degree in English. The The discussion is symbolically planned into dissertation is symbolically planned into six chapters, including introduction and there is some problem in the handwriting. Six chapters, including introduction and conclusion. Each chapter is uh, thoughtfully linked with the proceedings in accordance with the cultural symbol of the dissertation. The study examines injustice for Africans deprived life, reveals the trauma is the sole reason for African action and behavior. It goes on to include that the researcher concluded the thesis with the central theme of the thesis and sums up the overall findings of earlier chapters. The dissertation is acceptable from the point of view of subject matter, language, and presentation and documentation. Throughout the thesis, scholar
अच्छा ये suppress हो गया स्क्रीन सेवर आ जाएगा एक बार फिर इसको type कर दो।
in the light of above recommendation, I recommend Ms. Tabassum Praveen to be awarded the PhD degree in English, Patna University, Patna, after an appropriate Viva-Voce test and defense of her thesis. The third report is by Dr. Jaydeep Sarangi, the external examiner. In his report, he has said that thesis by Tabassum Praveen seems to be an original work of scholarship spanning over six well-connected chapters. All chapters are well linked. Introduction is mapping of African literature. Then chapter 2 introduces political, historical, social, and psychological aspects in the 9 days. Racial subjugations are well mapped. Chapter 6 explores imaginations and identity in July's people and injustice in the representation of Africans. Issues of positioning the literature of South Africa have been explored with wisdom. On the whole, it is a quality work. I recommend the thesis for the award of Ph.D. in English without any change. And he has also given some questions for the Viva-Voce as well. Thank you so much. So these were the three reports on Tabassum Praveen thesis titled as such. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vibhash Ranjan. Now I request Tabassum Praveen to make her presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to our respected Dean, Faculty of Humanities, Patna University, our esteemed Professor and Head, Dr. Stuti Prasad ma'am, Professor Dr. Arjun Kumar sir, Dr. M.D. Mahfuzur Rahman sir, and all the distinguished professors and research scholars present here. Um, it's both um, honor and privilege to welcome you all for the thesis defense, and I would like to extend my welcome to our external examiner, Dr. uh, Dr. Dept Sarangi sir, who is a principal and professor of New Alipur College, and with immense pleasure, I also welcome my family, my parents, and my siblings, who encourages me a lot. And coming to my introduction, my name is Tabassum Praveen, research scholar in the Department of English, Patna University, and I also serve as an assistant professor of English at CPET IPT Beta. My title of research is Injustice in the Representation of Africans in the Novels of Nadine Gordimer. Well, my inspiration carried out this research is something really personal. I always believe that an identity of an individual is central to the understanding of the self. With this belief, I have chosen Nadine Gordimer's in my study. So coming to the research gap, which points out about the identity and culture in the novels of Nadine Gordimer, as I believe that she represents the group of African writers in a true sense. So that this study proposes Nadine Gordimer's presentation of African in her novels, their conditions and their ways of living, and is she fair in the way she presents African people? The question this study thus investigate whether Gordimer did justice or injustice in the representation of African people through her novels. So the main aim and objectives of this research is the evaluation of Gordimer's contribution to South African literature at a time characterized by intense trauma and political upheavals. So the methodology I have taken in which includes close reading and interpreting and comparing the primary sources chosen for study. And this thesis also uses critical race theory to analyze or to show the white rulers who tried to assert their superiority over the native African people. So my research is completed by applying the methods like collection and thorough analysis of primary and secondary data, and the collection and thorough analysis of research articles, journals, and papers based on Nadine Gordimer's novels. Next, coming to the chapterization of the novel, there are six chapters in my thesis, which includes first chapter is introduction, second chapter talked about the novel The Lying Days, third chapter is about the conservationist, fourth chapter is about the Burgess daughter, fifth chapter talked about the novel July's People, and the last chapter is the conclusion. So coming to the first chapter, that is Introduction to African Literature. It's not working.
शेयर नहीं हो रहा, शेयर नहीं हो रहा, परमिशन फॉर टेक्निकल शेयर ना हो बिल्कुल क्वेश्चन ज्यादा नहीं, एक मिनट, आप क्या चाह रहे हैं कि चेंज हो ना, इससे बस नीचे करते हो, इससे नीचे वाले।
The first chapter is Introduction to African Literature, in which I have exposed the evolving characteristics which shaped by both native African writers and English individuals, those who are living in Africa. So this chapter also addresses emotional and psychological impacts of migration and dislocation, which reference to the works of theorists like Stuart Hall, who explained the crisis of their supremacy. It also encompasses oral traditions, folklores, and modern writings. And I have put the key theorists in the introduction chapter, that is, which are Stuart Hall, Edward Said, and Homi Bhabha, who emphasizes the post-colonial discourse in their works. As I said earlier, that this theory uses critical race theory to show how white rulers tried to assert their superiority. So, in the words of Orban Allen, who defined critical race theory, we cannot see race as a fixed category. Instead, it sees as a site of struggle, because African peoples are struggling and have struggled a lot to gain their identity in society. And furthermore, the second chapter entitled Political, Historical, Psychological Aspects in Nadine Gordimer's the novel The Lying Days. In Lying Days, this chapter looks at how political changes, historical events, and social factors affect the main characters in the novel. The first one is the political aspect. In political aspect, I have discussed about the rise of National Party of South Africa and the subsequent political upheavals. This party helped to remove many harmful issues or systems in Africa related to white rulers. So, using the idea of Orientalism and Michel Foucault on power, the chapter explores how South African society changed their political power, shifted from white minority to native people of Africa. So, the central character and narrator of this novel, The Lying Days, is Helen Shaw, who is the main focus of this story. So, Helen refuses to participate. She refuses to participate in a gathering in a gold mine. The novel follows her growing political awareness with her transformation at various stages, because there are many changes, there are many political upheavals at that time in Africa. So Helen Shaw is also facing that situation at that time. So next aspect is historical aspect, in which I have discussed the Group Areas Act, Population Registration and Race Classification Act, which were enacted in 1950s. Next is social aspect in Lying Days. in which we can see throughout the novel, Helen faces significant racial prejudice, reflecting the broader social issues in South Africa after the 1948 government change. So, this chapter addresses how color consciousness was deeply ingrained in white people, making it difficult for them to move beyond the racial societal structure they had built in Africa. Last one is the psychological aspect in the lying days. In psychological aspect, we have seen the growth and maturity of Helen Shaw, surrounded by socio-political turbulence. And Godimer also highlights Helen's psychological growth, especially her rich sense of imagination, which adds depth to her character. And the third chapter is the definition of self in Nadine Gordimer's The Conservationist. This novel showcased the various challenges faced by Native African people in asserting their identity. And there were various colonial exploitations at that time. So the impact of colonial practices on self and land are going there. So this chapter discusses how the colonial power structure shapes and distorts the sense of self through discursive practices, forcing each and every individual to conform and impose the identity towards white people. Now, next is the character study of the main protagonist, Mehrin. In this chapter, I have also analyzes the Mehrin's journey and psyche. And in this novel, I have explored the lasting impact of apartheid on Africa and its people, which focuses on Mehring, who is a wealthy industrialist, is depicted living a life of luxury while African workers on his farm suffered with poverty. So, despite his comfortable life, Mehring is unhappy. Why? Because his wife left him and his son is very rebellious, and his farm workers don't appreciate him because he is a white person, and although he is not violent towards his farm workers, but his racism is clear in his actions and beliefs, thinking his white makes him superior. That's why in action through his actions the racist people thought that he is not caring. He's not a caring master. And next, the fourth chapter is the prison and political struggle in Nadine Gordimer's Burgess Daughter, in which I have talked about the legacy of resistance, in which the main protagonist is Rosa. I have discussed about the Rosa's struggle with her identity and her father's legacy, because in this novel, Rosa tries to understand her parents' role and carry on their legacy, because Rosa's parents were also a part of significant historical movement. But when she was very young, her parents left her behind. However, she gets involved in the resistance movement and becomes a political prisoner. And I also talked about the apartheid's impact in this novel, in this chapter. This chapter vividly portrays the psychological and social effects of apartheid, including racial segregation, oppression, and violence that shaped the lives of both black and white South Africans. There is also a symbolism in prison through this in this novel. It focuses on a struggle in South African society, especially the role of prisons as a symbol for political oppression and personal growth. So, in this novel, writing memoirs in prison helps the character Rosa find her place and understand her role in the struggle. But as a female political prisoner in the colonized land, She faces challenges in expressing her opinions because because this mirrors the idea in Gayatri's Pyrex Can the Subaltern Speak, which discusses how oppressed often can't voice their struggles because we people, those who are blacks, they have no right to speak. They have mouths but only to eat, but not to speak at that time. And next, last point is the psychological and social dynamics which interplay between Rosa's personal growth and societal expectations. This chapter also draws on Homi Bhabha's idea about cultural diversity and a third space theory and how it shaped knowledge and society. And the fifth chapter is the imagination and identity in Nadine Gordimer's July People. In this in this chapter, I have discussed about I have explored the complex identities of Native Africans in society. It examines how social practices and oppressive actions of white rulers work together to keep Native people in a subordinate position. Through this novel, Godimer imagined the post-apartheid era because at that time various political upheavals are there. So before the end of apartheid, Godimer explores an imagined post-apartheid utopia for the blacks of South Africa, where they have overthrown the whites and rebalanced the power. In through this novel, July's Paper. So this chapter also looks at the imaginative ideas Godimer uses to discuss the creation of a nation and rise of a native authority, focusing on the character of July. July is the main character of this novel, July's People. So in this, I have also discussed the post-colonial revival, which depicts the rise of native African power at that time. So this novel was set in post-apartheid era. July's People paints a character which is opposite. It paints a opposite picture compared to other novels by Godimer. It almost illustrates the rise of new African society. That is the period after colonized era. In this, we can also say that we can also say that there are reversal of roles after post-apartheid era. There is a transformation. How we can say that because at that time, transformation. July is a male black servant who works in Ismail's family, who is the master of July. After the end of the white rule, the whites were thrown out from their city, and Ismail is a white people. So after the end of white rule, the Ismail's family forced to leave Johannesburg and come to the native village of July. So Maureen, the wife of Bamford Ismail, has to work along with Martha and July's people for their family survival because they were thrown out from their places. At that time, we can also see that there is complex relationship between the masters and the servant because Maureen is a master and July is a servant. So the imagined future is that Godimer makes a very captivating narration in showcasing the justice of the native people in terms of their position and rights in the society. So, what remarkable in this chapter, as it can be observed, is that it tries to highlight the differences which are seen in the South African society after the end of white rule. And the sixth chapter is about the conclusion. In conclusion, the study emphasizes how Godimer's novels reflect the struggles of native Africans shaped by social, political, and historical forces. It reflects cultural identity, history, and post colonial struggles. It continues to shape and redefine global literary perspectives. Nadine Gordimer's novels powerfully depict the struggles and changing dynamics of South African society. They highlight the tension between justice and injustice, justice in the portrayal of Native Africans' identity and socio-political status. Her works remain pivotal in understanding the post-colonial discourse and ongoing quest for equality and recognition in African literature. And talking about the further
Uh, Before we got findings in a nutshell and conclusion. Oh, conclusion.
For further research, however, the scope of this study is limited, and further research could delve into more of Gordimer's novels and South African literature. This research primarily focus on the issues of secondary identity of a native people without extending its scope to other areas of study, which can be considered as a limitation. So it can also be regarded that different other novels by Gordimer can also be taken up for further research in the future so that there can be opening up of numerous possibilities which would unfold various previously unseen concerns and topics for research pertaining to Gordimer and South African literature at large. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tabassum. Now I request Professor Jaideep Sarangi, our external expert, to put questions to Tabassum Praveen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It was a nice presentation. And my question should be, don't you think the African context that you have examined, uh, the cultural alienation from you, which came to you through books and through the texts, and how did you approximate and digest the cultural parameters that you have explained in your thesis, and how did you negotiate with them, with your personal, I think, distance from the African locale?
So sorry, sir. Can you repeat the question? Actually, there is a voice problem.
As an Indian
I
scholar,
think it was not
as,
audible.
as an Indian scholar, how do you perceive
Yes,
an
sir.
aligned culture that is African culture for thesis and working on it? And what kind of difficulties you faced during the course of your work, because you are not being exposed to African culture, tradition, and you are working on African context, and what sort of problems that you faced?
Right, sir. But actually, means India is also facing the same situation, just like Africa. Most of the many things are similar in Africa and India, because Indians are also facing the racial issues during from the starting from the British rule, and in Africa also they are facing the same situation. That's why I relate this, and this is my personal view that. Actually, in my school time, I also faces racial issues in my school time. That's why I means um, I relate it, and various research articles I have gone through of Africa. That's there are many research articles available.
And what are your major findings in the thesis, and what do you think can be explored later on?
So in this research, we can in this research, Godimer can also taken I have taken only four novels. That is The Lying Days, The Conservationist, and The Burgess Daughter, and The July's People. So we can work on the further novels of Godimer except these novels.
Okay, over to Stuti.
In findings, I found that two novels of Godimer did justice and two novels of Godimer did injustice in the representation of African people.
Okay, over to Stuti, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Now I request the other faculty members to put questions to Parveen, Tabassum Parveen.
So, what is the most famous quotation from the novel July's People that you have also referred to your research work?
Yes,
According to you, there is a quotation that the truth is not always beauty, but the search for it is. What does it mean? But the hunger for it is really a truth.
sorry.
The truth is not always beauty, but the hunger for it is.
Say it's about race. No,
No
no.
harm in saying no. There can be another question for you.
What are the Jewish themes that she talks about in her novels?
What's up?
How she has portrayed the plight of the Jewish people in her novels.
Jewish people. So I think there is a. She talks about xenophobia. Godimer talks about xenophobia, which is discrimination towards other nation and other people of other countries.
How far you agree with the view that she is a political novelist?
Because she was a part of political, she was also a political activist at that time. She joined the African National Congress.
Which of her novels is reflected?
What's up?
In which of her works, whether novels or the short stories, these political themes are reflected?
The political themes are reflected in the novel The Lying Days and also in Burgess' Daughter. These two novels, she talked about the political upheavals.
She has been awarded both Nobel Prize as well as the Booker Prize.
Yes,
What's
sir.
knowing that? What are the reasons? What are the
She,
similar qualities of her writings which
she,
give her
she,
stand
uh,
all the other contemporary novels?
She won Nobel Prize in 1991 for her famous work, which I have given in my thesis, The Conservationist, in which she talks about the identity and culture, um, means the definition of self in that novel. She talked about the African people who are black and they have no identity in their society. So she captivatingly portray the African people, native people in a very enthusiastical manner.
If you are asked to make a comparison of Gotama with any other novelist, then whom you will choose?
Indians or Indian.
Anyone. Anybody.
So Maya Angelou.
So, what are the striking things that you found about this novelist, Godaima, which motivated you to do the research work on the novels penned by her?
Because of means I personally believe, sir, that the identity of an individual is central to the understanding of the results. And the inspiration is this research carried out, inspiration carried out this research many people of identity. And they said that when people take it, because India has also taken this inspiration. That's why I have to. And for starting, I don't know why. I want to research in Africans. I don't know why, but I have interest in
Nice. What is apartheid? What is apartheid, and how did it affect the lives of Africans? Apartheid, you have talked about it while you were doing presentation. So, what is apartheid, and how did it affect the lives of Africans? Apartheid, you have mentioned it while you were doing presentation.
Apartheid.
Uh, yes, apartheid. Any problem? Okay. Okay, so what kind of intergenerational and historical trauma that Nadine Godima experienced?
historical trauma. In history, there were being a white South African writer, she she's a white South African writer, but she has chosen and she was against the white people and write about the racist people.
It's okay. ठीक है. ठीक है,
Very well taken.
Now I request the supervisor, uh, Dr. M. Rahman, to ask a few questions. No. Okay, now it's open to the students and research scholars. If you have questions, please ask. Yes.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Akshari, daughter of Hospital, and all the studying coordinator about trade and economics and social struggles of African communities. Social struggles of African communities.
Socialist struggles actually the black people have no right to voice. Uh, they have no identity and they can't raise their voice regarding any subject, regarding any issues. They have no social. They have no class in society at that time. So Nadine Gordimer talks about their position in society. They wrote a numerous of novels to voice for African people to get position and position of black people in society. Novel through her writings. Sorry.
Yes, Priya. To make an observation. If you have questions after this, please be loud. Priya. Yes, Prakriti.
My question is like that Gardner was against racial discrimination. In most of her works, as she said, we see that the central protagonist is a white character. Does her work really challenges the colonial discourse, or does it unsubconsciously reproduces it and shows a liberal white consciousness?
Repeat.
Having said that, Gardner was against racial discrimination. But in her works, we see that central protagonist is the white character, which is the primary agent of politics. The fact does that no challenges the
Many of her novels, there is also black character who is the main protagonist.
but the audience supported independent white protagonist. The interaction with dignity
She is also political activist now, so she can.
it is not challenging to relate to. She is just presenting liberal white consciousness.
Have you understood the question?
Yes, sir.
In her works, we can see there is an ethical dilemma speaking for the marginalized people and speaking about the marginalized. That she
There are two cases. Have you understood?
She is a political activist. She wrote number of means, works related to black also. July is also a black people, right? So she's right.
again the cause of independence or if the black people are only active mediator. Right?
Right now also in this generation also we see that voices are given whites will be given priority. So it's a hard angle of perception whether to write about white people or black people. It's our choice.
Yes, Nandita. Yes, yes, Satwik. Yes. That's all. Her novel talks the operation. Okay, white people.
Yes,
And in ours, we can also see the same situation.
yes.
So, my question is, what are the common things that a reader can take to become motivated to go against the situation? As we can see that in Africa, people are the determination to be seen.
Everywhere there is discrimination. In India also and in other countries also we face xenophobia. As I told earlier, xenophobia means discrimination towards other nation. So one nation is also discriminating other nation, just like England. England is the colonizer of India also and Africa also.
Then you will extend your take from it. The spaces
Yes. Um, you can read the novel Nadine Gordimer's novel The Conservationist. This novel motivated me also. So you must read this novel. I suggest you. You will. I'm sure that you will also get motivated from after reading this novel. You are also motivated.
yes, yes, Akan Pratap. Nand. No. Nandita.
talked about this notion of distorted self.
They imposed their identity.
Has reimagined and in the information has tried to give a kind of justice. She has
She,
reimagined.
she has imagined the future of Africa.
You think that she has done that character by now she has led this healing of consciousness.
In my opinion, through July's people, she definitely did justice to the black people because she has imagined about the post-apartheid era, in which she has imagined the country, the society, which will be discrimination free, right?
How she has led
Distorted and imposed identity. Imposed act means at that time imposed means what identity thopa jata tha na means black people पे they can't raise their voice.
Is there any other question or observation from anyone? So now we've come to the end of the question answer session. And now I request Professor Jaideep Sangrangi to congratulate Tabassum Praveen. Professor
Thank you,
Sarangi.
madam, and thank you. The candidate has successfully answered all our queries and questions coming from different persons. Congratulations, and I think it's a new journey with a doctorate degree, and it's the beginning of a new process of postdoctoral and more research works from you. I expect it is not the full stop, but the beginning of a new sentence, and I congratulate you wholeheartedly. And thank you, the guide who has successfully done it and taken you through the process, and the entire department of English, Patna University, were a really good friend of me and many of us, and all power be with you in the days to come. Thank you so much. Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sarangi, for the
thank you. Wonderful to have. Wonderful. Dr. Stuti, madam, you send me the all formalities. I'll sign and send all those things tomorrow morning because I'll be traveling. So tomorrow you send me. Tomorrow morning I'll be sending you with signature as I've been doing. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'll take leave and thank you once again. Congratulations.
Now we've come to the end of this Viva-Voce, and I am very thankful to everyone, all the faculty members and the students, research scholars present over here for your active participation. The questions were very good from the students. Thank you. So now we'll have a photograph. Congratulations. आपको भी बहुत congratulations.
Congratulations, sir.
ये फोटो एक इधर आओ इधर आओ इधर यहाँ